So let's go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the Lake Lure Marine Commission, September 8th, 2020. Having had an opportunity to review the agenda, are there any changes to the agenda or additions? In that case, the agenda stands as written. I don't believe we have any members of the public here, so we will skip the public comment and go to the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda as written?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then it is accepted. We have no unfinished business, so we'll go right to new business. The first item is suspension of voting permit privileges and approval of notification letter. And whomever would like to address that, please feel free to start.
I would let William do that, Madam Mayor, but he doesn't seem to be with us right now. Basically, it's a letter that's in your packet, and we just need a simple vote to approve that letter, and our town attorney then will distribute that as directed.
Has everyone had an opportunity to read the letter? It was in the packet.
I did, yes. I know that in the last meeting we did, I believe it was 3 years in full. I know we have 3 civil citations for the weight violation. I was looking for the 3 year. Oh, there it is. Never mind. Under recommended and requested. I just didn't circle it right before number 2, so I'm good.
Okay.
Is everyone else in agreement with the writing of the letter?
Yeah, what's the specific date that the suspension will end?
Oh, good question.
That is a good question.
So, gentlemen and Madam Mayor, Dean and Shannon. So the violation was April 4th, 2020, and that is a spring, that's really when folks started to put their boats back on the water. If we do have a lake drawdown, you could go with a date of 3 years from April 4th, 2020 to back end the 3 years. And that would fall into essentially a new lake season if we have a drawdown period.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, instead of the April 4th, I believe I would just say the April, the month itself. and the
Yeah,
year.
true.
So that's 2023.
That'd be my understanding, yes. Mm-hmm.
We'll just,
I'm fine with that. I just didn't want to leave any confusion out there.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, John. Because this is unprecedented for
Yeah.
council, for lake operations, really for the town, for something like this. So to be specific on it is very prudent. So I definitely think that we need to outline that before the final letter goes to Steckler and his attorney.
if you guys put that to a vote, we'll make sure that we clarify that in the letter. It goes to April 2023.
I think there's been some sightings of him on the water since that date with the boat. But I'll go on with whatever suits everybody else. I'm kind of thinking, why not make it the day he pleaded guilty from there? But I'll go with what the majority wants to do.
Yeah. Commissioner Kilby, has the court date? Well, I know William's with us now. Has the court date was delayed the last time? Has that transpired yet or no?
Yes,
Okay,
and he did plead guilty.
he did. Okay.
William, since you're here now, what's your opinion about the start date? We should do that. Should we make it with the day the violation actually happened, or should we make it the day he was pled guilty? The suspension.
Oh, I think the clause that we're relying on in the lake use regulations is predicated on a being found guilty, either through a trial or a plea. It just says upon conviction, and there has now been a conviction. So I believe whatever time period the 3 years begins on, should be after that date. I had it dated for that date, the letter, which I think you've all seen. And so I want to make sure that the terms of the decision are set forth and that the letter is approved. It may need to be approved as amended if in fact amendments are required. But I think it's, Shannon, you may have to help jog my memory, but I believe the next time that he could apply for a permit would be, it states it in the letter, but I think it's the beginning of, or for the season, the 2024 season.
Is it 2024? I don't have a copy of it in front of me, William.
The rest of this, I mean, he's being refunded. And so for this year, and then going forward, it would be, I think it's set up to where it's 3 years. So that would be 21, 22, and 23.
William, I have a question. Since we're meeting today and officially making the decision today, would we want to start, wouldn't it make sense to start the suspension today for, and carry it through however long we want to carry it, if that's the.
That's a very good point. Yes, I believe that's appropriate.
That's what makes sense to me most.
Yeah.
And if we make it for 3 years, that carries him through Labor Day 2023. And if he wants to buy a permit for the remainder of that season, his suspension would be up, then he could come do it.
Right.
Yes. Let's do it like that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and Mr. Morgan, in that 2024, it's in the last paragraph there. I do think it may be good. It may be prudent to just add that if you choose to renew in 2024, it'll be subject to lake regulations, available permits, and full annual permit rate. That's not prorated, you know.
Right.
Because Labor Day is more than halfway through the season, but you know,
Right.
I
His
think
discretion if he wants to.
Mhm.
Would we make this an automatic renewal in 2024 or whatever, or would we put this review of the Marine Commission at that time so we can review any types of activities that may or may not have occurred in the 3-year span? So in other words, would we make them get an approval to move on from that point, or would we just automatically let the time say you've done it, here's your permit?
I think we revisit it and do what you just suggested to make sure everything, you know, to make sure he's got that course completed.
Safety course certificate.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been any, certainly it's, I think it's predicated on there not being any additional offenses or civil citations issued for things that may yet happen in the future. We don't know.
I like that a little better, that it go under review or approval by the Marine Commission and or within conjunction with the Parks, Rec, and Lake Department town manager as a recommendation to the Marine Commission, possibly even involving LAB in that decision. I don't want to drag it out and make it too big, but I also want to make sure that we really look at, you know, did he do everything he was supposed to do, opposed to just a time stamp.
Yeah.
Should it be requested to come before the commission?
Well, that's what I was going to suggest. Why don't we say that after Labor Day in 2024, he may apply to, you know, in person at the Marine Commission to obtain a permit.
I like that better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never laid eyes on the guy, you know, and it's, I may not be here to be one of the ones making the decision, but I think he should have to come before to, you know, to be able to for questions to be asked from whoever is on the Marine Commission at the time.
And, you know, we could also, at that time, we could request, as you had mentioned, Commissioner Comey, you could request someone from the LAB to be at that Marine Commission meeting
Mhm.
if we knew he were going to be applying.
Yeah, because he could sell his property in the meantime, but you know, that's a possibility. If based on what we're talking about, we were looking at September 2023, I think, from the date of conviction, which was just recently. So we could either choose the second quarter commission meeting or the third quarter Marine Commission meeting. To get ahead of it is probably better than to be behind it, but it could go either way based on what we want to do.
So you want him to appear before the commission, not just have Dean
I'm sorry,
get
Mr.
the
Morgan.
records?
No, I just to maybe look at a date. It may be irrelevant right now, but just looking at the timeline, second quarter Marine Commission is July, I think, and the third quarter is September. So just wanted to kind of think about the dates based on the conviction date as well for the 3 years. Yeah.
You could either say he would have to attend, you know, apply in person to the Marine Commission, or you could say he needed to submit his documentation to the Marine Commission. Whichever, you know, is better. If you can review it from the documentation and determine that he's done everything, there's probably no need for him to be there in person.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing to do is, first of all, we got to tell Linda that no boat can be registered at that, no motorized boat can be registered at that address. So there's a block on it so that she knows. And then when she does receive an application for that address, it gets reviewed by the Marine Commission, the application. I think that's the best way to do it.
So we handle that internally.
Internally.
In terms of the letter, though, so we don't have to meet on this again.
Yeah.
It's based on the course serving the 3-year period, the class, which is already in the letter, permit availability, and should he want to get one this time 3 years from now, it'd be the full price.
Right.
And I will add the language that the Marine Commission will rule upon any future permit applications.
Yep.
Or the next one, if there is one. So as long as we're clear on everything, I think you can
We can,
approve it, and I can capture the language and
As
run it
amended.
by Shannon, or I could send it around just for consensus. Yes, that's what we talked about, whatever, without convening a meeting. And depend on Mr. Willis to point me in the right direction to put it in his hands, or ask him to take care of it, which he's essentially, I think, said that he would help me do that.
so is the council comfortable with approving it, the letter as amended, as we discussed?
I am.
Do I hear a motion then to approve it, the letter as amended?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the letter as amended for future boating permits beginning in September 2023. And I believe that was the only change that we made that would be adjusted from the draft from 8/18/2020.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hold one second.
Okay,
Hold one second. Were we clear in our motion that we are suspending his voting privileges on Lake Lure for 3 years?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Aye.
I think that passes unanimously, approval of the letter. Thank you very much. Our next order of new business is the Lakely schedule adoption.
Okay. The board request that you're looking at right now was actually the request of the Lake Advisory Board. And it highlighted, it looks like it's in green there, shows what the LAB's vote was on each of the three things we had talked about. The first one is 1 through 7, increase commercial non-motorized from $100 to $150. Let's see, increase commercial. Okay, increase vacation rentals from 1,500 to 2,000. And as you can see them as they go down, what I've done, if we'll stop at number 7 there, in your addendums, you will see a spreadsheet like the one here.
Yep.
Okay, that spreadsheet, just to kind of show you how I built that spreadsheet out, the last full year of permits that we sold was the 2019 model, as we are not through completed with 2020. So that just gives you the rough numbers of what was happened in 2019. The first blue line next to it is how much the requested increase is from the LAB, which, as they said, passed 6-1. If we had sold those permits in 2019 with this increase, the second blue column shows that increase. That instead of total revenues of $190,400 on the very first line, it would have been $285,600.
Yep.
If you go to the bottom of that column, it'll show that it is $469,000 is what would have been made. And then over to the left of that is what we did make. The green column is what the additional revenue is if approved. Like on the first column up at the top, we would increase that revenue by $95,200. And if I miss these numbers, I'm sorry, they're very small to my eyes, but I'm trying, they look pretty good. There you go. And then coming on down, the next one would have been the non-motorized permit. That it would have, if we had these, it would increase us another 22,000. And as you go down to the bottom of that column, it would show you what the total revenue raised would be, in addition to what we've already made, would be the 125, 120. The gray column over to the right is just what the permit fees would be for next year if you were to accept and adopt these fees. You'll scroll on down just a little bit more to the commercial. Okay, the commercial here, if you look at the first column with yellow in it, that's their requested fee increase would be $500, $1,000, $500, and $550. So it's kind of the same principle. If you move over to the right, that shows what the additional revenue would have been if we had sold them at 2019 at that. When you hit the green column, that's showing that's that much additional revenue for that many permits that we sold. If you go down to the bottom of that column, it shows an additional $37,350. If you drop below that, it shows the total non-commercial would have, if the fee increases are adopted, it would raise the 125, 120, and for commercial, it would raise $37,350, which would be a total of $162,470, which meets what they were asked to achieve. They also made mention on cluster moorings around the lake, and this was in their vote. It was a 4-3 majority vote, but just giving you numbers here, they say there's approximately 240 moorings. If they were to throw a fee of $100 a mooring, that'd be an additional $24,000. That would be a total increase of $186,470 if you chose to go with that also. And like I said, in the gray column, if this is accepted, minus the mooring clusters, in the gray column, that would be what the permits would be advertised as for 2021. Is there any questions on this spreadsheet?
Let me make sure I understand, Dean, the 125,120, that's the number we asked them to come up with, right?
They were asked to come up with 160, yeah, 160.
Okay, the
162.5, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so they've hit that number in the green with the 162,470.
Basically, they're a little bit off, but I think it's theirs. I think it's very close.
Yeah.
And we may see a fluctuation in some permit sales too that may increase that with, the non-property owners that are renting the marina and buying the 550, which would be 650 in this permits. So you're probably going to see that actually fill up.
Okay. The only other comment I have is I noticed they voted down 4-3 the putting hour meters on all the commercial boats.
That is correct.
I think that's going to give us some very valuable information for making decisions in the future. I'm okay with all of it, except I would want to keep in the hour meter requirement for all commercial boats. So that that's just information we're gonna need to have.
Right. I would agree with that, John.
Dean, what was the specifics on that discussion? I can't remember for sure. Why?
Commissioner Kilby, I was not at that meeting.
Okay, that's right.
I was on vacation, and this is just what the chairman had sent to me that was the results of that meeting.
I think what it was is there was some concern, which was being able to gather this data and process it maybe was part of the problem. But I'm with John, and I'm only the liaison, so I didn't have a vote on that. But I agree that I think that's something to be very valuable to us as we decide, the lake model and, the actual lake usage and everything, to have those hour meters on the commercial boats.
Dean, would you give some thought? We don't need to decide on it today, but give some thought on how we would approach keeping up with the hours and keeping a record of that.
That what I would require them to do is give me a beginning of the season reading, and at the minimum give me an end of season reading. But I could possibly get these monthly or whatever. All I'd have to do, there's usually around 60 in the model, and it could be as much as a phone call to get the required data. And just to echo what John was saying, we spent a lot of time looking at these meters, and last year we monitored the boats and stuff. I wasn't at this LAB meeting, but I would say we need those meters on these commercial boats.
Well, it give you the information we need. Comes down to assessing who pays what on the lake.
Right. But as far as getting the data from that, I mean, like you said, it's not a huge conversation for today, but John, I really believe we could do that fairly easily.
Yeah, you got plenty of time, think it through and come up with a system of how we would do it.
Correct.
Okay, do we want to approve this recommendation with the exception of that, or do we want to postpone the vote on approval until we can?
I would suggest that we go ahead and approve the other two and then make a final decision on the hours meter at later. Maybe next, if we have to have a special meeting or whatever we have to do, I'd say we do that.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. Would someone like to make that motion then?
Well, hang on. I have just one concern, just one. I think it's a great product. I think they did a great job. But the one concern I have is on the residential non-motorized. The motorized permits and increasing those, that's going directly at the problem that we have, which is most people are concerned about the big motorboats on the lake and so on and so forth. This year, as much time as I spent on the lake, there are a lot of folks in Lake Lure that are blowing off the non-motorized stickers because they feel it's exorbitant already at $40 and there's no real checking of the non-motorized. So here's my concern. My concern is if we go to 60, which isn't a big deal, but if we go to 60, I think we're just going to make that problem worse, and it's really not fixing anything on the lake. So one thing that I would just consider, just for a thought, is they've already exceeded by going with the cluster moorings, they've already exceeded what we asked them to do at 165. If you just eliminated the increase on the non-motorized, that brings it down 22K. That still gets them their goal that they were shooting at with going after the cluster moorings. So I just throw that out there for a consideration if you feel that way about that, because I think we're just going to make that problem of people not getting permits for kayaks, canoes, and paddle boards. I think we're just going to make it worse by going to $60. But I value anyone else's opinion.
I tend to agree with you, David. The non-motorized really don't use up much. That's you're typically paddling around the edge, and
Yeah.
I tell you what I have heard, and I'm just gonna throw it out there to the group so you know that I've heard it, and if everybody starts getting the same complaint, when we can address it. But I'm hearing more complaints about the boats the wake surfing. Not the wakeboarding, but the wake surfing, where
Right.
you intentionally make the biggest wake you can. And they got boats out there now that can throw off a tremendous wake.
Yeah.
And I think that that may be something that we want to consider at some time, getting the Lake Advisory Board to take a good hard look at that, and maybe even do a survey or something, because people will ask me about it. And I said, well, I brought it up. Why don't you come to Marine Commission meeting and state your concerns, or at least send a letter or email. Oh, I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So
There were a number out this weekend because we were out on the lake all weekend of the wake surfing, and they are, it's a huge surf, and there are a lot of, kind of immaterial to me whether we increase it from 40 or 60 or not, because it's not that much revenue, but there are a lot of non-permitted, non-motorized.
Oh yeah, there are a ton. I mean,
So, so, I guess the bigger question is how we can police that a little bit better, to use.
if there are a lot of non-motorized that aren't permitted, if we just, we could probably make up a lot of the slack there by just making sure they get permits.
Well, that's a pretty big job, John. The house next door on Naverly Drive this weekend, there was people there, and they had 4 kayaks,
I know.
and they had no permits, and that's a regular, that's a regular thing. And I don't know how, we work. I think it's something we need to work on. I think whether we go up 40 to 60, I'm not sure, but we've had some discussion. Commissioner Diorio and I talked about a little bit, the two of us, about maybe we tie some kind of permit required to the vacation rental property that they pay, where would cover people that rent the house bringing in a kayak. I'm not sure how we would monitor all that, but that's something to think about. But I mean, I don't know how we would ever police the number of kayaks that come in. I mean, I see them walk down over across at Allen's docks in front of the house. They park there. They don't rent a slip there. They carry their kayaks down, the canoes, they get in and spend the day. Yeah.
Well,
I agree, John.
This year,
Go ahead.
I was going to say this year, COVID-19's hit. It's really hampered our ability to train officers. Sean and I both have gotten together. We're going to get these officers trained up. Next year, I intend on working on the lake as much as possible on weekends and stuff. We also have Dana Bradley that will be a law enforcement officer by that time. And we're really going to go after getting these things organized. People's probably going to come to you complaining next year because they feel like they're being harassed. We're not harassing them, but we're really going to address these issues of them not having permits. And you'll see you will see a different policing of the lake next season.
I think, and that's perfect. That's perfect, Dean. I think that if we go to 40 to 60 this year, I think you'll find out we may actually reduce revenue. I think people will reach the point where they're just either gonna, sell or set aside. I think it'll have, it may have, I'm only guessing, I don't know for sure, but it may have the reverse effect. So I propose this because they did a great job meeting their mark and we're gonna be over at 186 with the moorings. I propose that we accept everything except for the non-motorized, and we keep that in our hip pocket. We keep it in reserve, see where the numbers bear out with the 2020 model, and then we discuss further how we could better get control of the non-motorized, whether it's like Commissioner Kilby says with a vacation rental blanket permit or some other mechanism to go after that. But I think doing that right now, where we don't really have to, maybe not such a good idea.
I would agree with you. I think that's a good trade-off. And we've still reached the goal that the LAB was challenged with.
Right.
And, if the rest of this board can go with that, I would be in full agreement of it.
Yeah, I would too. I like the idea of that blanket waiver a lot because currently the VROPs active to date are 372, and even if you just charge them even 40 or 50 bucks times 372, that qualifies the increase number that they're looking at already.
Well, you wouldn't be able to do that mostly just on lakefront properties, Patrick.
Yeah.
Oh, very true. Yeah, because those aren't on lakefront. You're right. Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, I did not think about that. Yep. Okay, but I like that a lot. I'm on board.
I mean, the one thing that echoes in my mind too, though, Commissioner Kilby told me that, hey, kayaks, canoes, and everything, there's more of them on the lake than ever before. There's starting to be a concern, but they're really not as big a concern as the deep V hulls with the wakeboarding and the big engines and the motorized. And keeping all those other increases will tend to keep that more in control, which is more of the problem. I think it buys us a little time to look at the non-motorized without creating a big to-do on the lake.
Yeah.
I think the larger number of complaints from the non-motorized is that they're in the middle of the lake.
Yeah, right.
To the side, which is a safety issue. And that just requires, as you said, Dean, when you all have more people out there, that'll be easier. It's their own safety, they're not safe.
Right. Oh, I agree with you, Madam Mayor. And that's not something that we're going to fix with a fee increase for the permit.
Nope.
And so it's a separate training issue that we can address. And by pulling that one back, again, I say we keep it in our back pocket, take another look at it this year, and then make adjustments for next year if we have some more great ideas. But I think the LAB did a great job going after the problems. They talked through it. I was at those meetings, and even by removing that one, we're still at their target goal. So good on them, John. And I would pass to them how pleased we are with the work that they did.
Do I hear a motion with those changes that we've made?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we, as Dean said, that we accept all the proposals made that was passed by the LAB, except the going to the 40, from 40 to 60 on the non-motorized for this season. And I'd make that motion.
Does that also address the
Hour meters?
yeah, the hour meters?
Yes, I did. That's right. I apologize. And that we do impose or add in addition that we do have the hour meters installed
Yep.
and recorded and
For
monitored
commercial boats.
Yes.
for commercial boats. That's correct.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And that resolution passed as amended.
Excellent work, Dean.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dean.
Yeah, it's great work. Great job, Dean. A lot of detail.
That is the last item. We have no more new business. And so we are just at 4:34 and we are not scheduled to start a town council meeting. And since we've advertised it as thus, I believe we're going to have to wait until 5 o'clock, unfortunately. So Mitchell, whether you want to end the Zoom and have everyone sign back in, or whether you want everyone, just to put everyone on mute, and that's up to you. Oh, first of all, do I hear a motion to adjourn a Marine Commission meeting?
I'll make a motion that we include the Lakewood Marine Commission meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The Marine Commission meeting stands adjourned.